defense and us not getting back, maybe crashing too many or just not having two people back, rushing up to the ball instead of getting back.
It was, by every conceivable metric, an ugly game, ugly not just in execution or outcome, but in rhythm, structure, and spirit. A deeply frustrating performance by the Indiana Fever, one that left fans disheartened and even casual viewers disengaged. But let's ask the honest question. What did you genuinely expect from the second night of a back-to-back when Caitlin Clark wasn't playing? Clark is not just a player on this team. She is the oxygen in their lungs, the spark in their engine, the rhythm in their motion. Without her, the Fever lose their identity, their fluidity, their spacing, and most critically, their energy. She is the tempo setter, the one who pushes the game into color when it wants to fall into grayscale, and on nights like this, when she isn't there, what remains is not just a weakened team, it's a vacuum of creativity. It's not that we hoped for a loss, but if we're honest, we saw it coming. This is the New York Liberty, a team with seasoned execution, balance, and depth. And while upsets are always possible, such as that unexpected victory over the Lynx during the Commissioner's Cup when Caitlin was also out, which honestly shocked most of USU, can't expect lightning to strike twice, especially not when the core energy of the squad is missing. What we got tonight wasn't just a defeat. It was a lifeless, disjointed attempt at basketball, where even the watch parties devolved into side conversations about IHOP breakfasts, hairstyles, and life anecdotes. That's how disengaging it was. And sadly, this isn't an isolated problem. This is a broader critique of the WNBA's current style of play. A style that, for all its physicality and athleticism, lacks variation. It's repetitive, predictable, paint attack after paint attack. Drive, dish, open three, miss. No mid-range dynamism, no creative counters, no flair and decision-making, and perhaps most importantly, no adjustments. The playbook seemed to be built around brute repetition rather than strategic diversity. Coaches rarely deviate from the default settings, and as a result, entire quarters feel like replays of the last. Wide-open layups are given without resistance. Defensive rotations are slow, clunky, or absent altogether. Shooters are left alone because the defense overcommits to drives that everyone saw coming. This isn't just about physical gaps, it's cognitive, it's systemic. And unfortunately, most teams fall into this sameness, this uniformity that drains the game of its soul. With the exception of maybe the Valkyries and the Indiana Fever when Caitlin is healthy and on the court. Most squads follow this mechanical formula. They drive the paint like it's a script. They don't veer into the unexpected. The lack of spontaneity, the absence of stylistic creativity, makes the games feel like chores to watch. And that's the danger. Because basketball, at its best, isn't just execution, it's imagination. And Caitlin Clark brings that imagination to life. She is, for lack of a better term, a creative anomaly in a league of systematics. Even when she's not scoring, she's doing something unorthodox, something disruptive to the routine. A behind-the-back pass in transition that threads through to defenders. A no-look dish off a pick-and-roll that turns heads. A logo three that defies conventional wisdom. And yes, while her shot hasn't always been falling this season, it's not just about her field goal percentage. It's about her impact on gravity. Just like Steph Curry redefined the way defenses are stretched because of his range, Caitlin does the same in her ecosystem. Defenders are drawn to her even off-ball, and that gravitational pull frees her teammates. It doesn't show up in box scores as clearly, but it's tactically massive. When you remove her from the floor, you remove spacing, you remove tempo, and you remove the creative thread that ties the Fever's offense together. Without her, the team is reduced to static possessions, poor shot selection, and scrambling late in the shot clock with no coherent offensive identity. Her presence creates visual interest in a league that desperately needs it. And that's not just a dig at the other players, it's a wake-up call for the WNBA at large. Because if people are tuning out, it's not because they don't support women's basketball, it's because they don't see the spark that made them fall in love with the game in the first place. Clark provides that spark. And when she's absent, the void is glaring. That's why the conversation around protecting Caitlin Clark isn't just about her health. It's about preserving the league's most valuable asset. Rushing her back from injury, subjecting her to unnecessary wear and tear, or allowing her to be physically targeted without proper officiating response is not just bad player management, it's organizational self-sabotage. If she were to miss significant time due to injury, it wouldn't just hurt the Fever. It would put the WNBA's momentum at serious risk. Because let's not forget, she didn't just arrive in the league, she brought thousands, maybe millions of fans with her. People who had never watched a WNBA game before suddenly knew tip-off times. They were tweeting about assists, rewatching logo threes, and clipping passes that looked like they came out of Jason Williams' highlight reel. She reignited interest, brought in fresh eyeballs, and reminded people that women's basketball can be as thrilling, unpredictable, and awe-inspiring as any other form of the game when the right players are allowed to shine. And the league needs more of that. More players who color outside the lines. More moments that break the algorithm. Step-back threes at the buzzer. Heat checks from 35 feet. Reverse layups in traffic. Fast breaks that end in flair, not just function, because fans don't just want wins, they want wonder. They want something to talk about. They want to leave a game and feel like they witnessed something different. Clark gives them that. She gives them moments, like the 9 points in 38 seconds, that had fans screaming. Or the passes that slice through seams where no seams should exist. That's not ordinary talent, that's generational creativity, and the backlash against her this notion that she's overhyped, or only valuable when she's scoring isn't just incorrect, it's lazy analysis. Because anyone with even a beginner-level grasp of basketball understands how off-ball movement, vision, and gravity work. They know that playmaking is about more than assists. They understand that offensive systems thrive on unpredictability and that defenses collapse when one player forces them into crisis decisions. That's what Clark does. And that's what makes the criticism absurd. The idea that she's just a shooter is not only reductive, it's factually wrong. Her passing is elite. Her court awareness is next level, and even when she's not making shots, the threat of the shot alone is enough to alter the geometry of the court. And again, that's Steph Curry gravity. That's not casual comparison, that's strategic truth. And for the WNBA to ignore that, or fail to properly uplift and protect it, is to misunderstand the engine of its own revival. This isn't about one player being bigger than the league. It's about the league recognizing the moment it's in and capitalizing. Because whether fans like it or not, casual or diehard, Clark is the reason thousands now care. She is the reason young girls are walking around in fever jerseys, pulling up from 30 in driveways across America. She is the reason broadcasts are breaking viewership records, and why even skeptics are giving the league another look. And the WNBA must meet this moment, not with resistance, but with embrace. They must evolve. They must allow stylistic freedom, encourage creative offenses, highlight individual flair, and stop leaning so hard on system-first conservatism. Basketball is art, and people want to see bold strokes, not blueprint repetition. It's time to let the game breathe. Let it evolve beyond the paint attack monotony. Let players like Caitlin Clark lead the way into a new era where women's basketball isn't just a parallel version of the men's game, it's a distinct, thrilling, creative force all its own. Tonight's game wasn't just a blowout loss. It was a reminder of what's at stake. It was a symptom of a larger stagnation, and it proved, beyond question, just how much one player can matter, not just to a team, but to an entire league. Because when Clark is missing, so is the joy, the tempo, the ingenuity, the fun. And if the league doesn't realize that now, while it still has the chance to elevate, innovate, and celebrate her and others like her, it may miss the most important opportunity it's had in decades. Caitlin Clark is not a luxury. She's a necessity, a lifeline. And she deserves to be treated, protected, and positioned as such. Because she's not just playing the game, she's redefining what the game can be, what the game can be.
I feel a lot in the same. I still feel like I could have taken care of the ball better. But just making the
rookie or a social media sensation, but the present and future of women's basketball itself. Yet somehow, despite her undeniable value to the game, the league, and the growing audience that tunes in week after week just to watch her, she continues to be mishandled, disrespected, and used like a pawn in a system that clearly doesn't know what to do with the one gift it's been given after decades of mediocrity. And yes, I said it, mediocrity. Because what we are consistently served on a nightly basis in the WNBA, with very few exceptions, is not just unwatchable basketball, but basketball that actively drives fans away. And it's not hard to see why. The product on the floor lacks diversity, lacks spark, lacks identity. And when the one player who brings all three of those things in, Caitlin Clark, is outweathered due to injury, management decisions, or back-to-back fatigue. See how quickly the entire product collapses back into monotony. And yet, even in her absence, the handling is suspect. Let's start there. Why are we playing games with the fans and media by labeling Caitlin Clark as questionable, when everyone knew she wasn't going to play? If you watched her limp off the court after the previous game, if you saw the strain, the wear and tear, the body language, there was no legitimate question. The team knew. The coaches knew. The front office knew. And yet, hours before tip-off, they're still pretending like there's a chance she might play. Why? Because they're trying to keep the crowd coming. Because they know the reality. Caitlin Clark is the draw. She's the reason tickets are being bought. The reason ratings are climbing. The reason little girls are showing up in fever jerseys with eyes wide open hoping to catch a glimpse of her magic. But instead of protecting her physically, mentally, and even logistically, they use her image and name as bait, stringing along hopeful fans until 2 hours before the game, when the truth finally drops. She's out. That's not just frustrating, it's exploitative, because fans who are making travel plans, calling off work, spending hundreds or thousands of dollars to attend these games aren't being respected. They aren't being given transparency. They're being played. And for what? A few more ticket sales, an arena that looks full on TV. That kind of short-term thinking is exactly why the WNBA has failed to capitalize on breakout moments in the past, and why the current leadership needs to reflect seriously on how it's handling its golden goose. Because let's be clear, Caitlin Clark is not just a player. She's a movement. She's the only current force in the women's game who transcends the niche and is drawing in people who otherwise wouldn't care. But you can't ride her talent into the ground and then act surprised when injuries start stacking up or her efficiency drops. She's being asked to carry an entire franchise, while simultaneously absorbing more hate, disrespect, and double standards than any rookie in recent memory. And while it's great that more girls now want to be like Caitlin Clark, how long will that last if she's not on the floor? If she's sidelined with chronic injuries by midseason because of poor management, back-to-back misuse, or outright negligence? It's not just about this season, it's about the sustainability of her career, the arc of her impact, the ripple effect she has on youth basketball, and how many players she inspired to pick up a ball. But that won't happen if she's sitting in a walking boot because the league can't protect its biggest star or provide clarity around her health. And that leads me to another thing: these injury games, this questionable tag nonsense, the downplaying of real issues like they did with her groin injury, labeling her day-to-day for 3 weeks. Do they think we're stupid? Are fans supposed to believe that was day-to-day? That wasn't day-to-day. That was a protective PR move to keep the hope alive that she might play, just enough to keep fans watching. And again, it's exploitative. If she's hurt, say she's hurt. Let fans adjust. Let families sell tickets. Let people plan around the reality. Because keeping people in the dark just to squeeze out a few more gates sales is a slap in the face to the same people